one of the caravan doors open, and out comes Todd McKenny.
Yes.
And I was thrilled to bits. I said, Todd McKenny, you gorgeous thing. And he stopped and he looked, and I said, I saw you in Boy from Oz.
Yes.
He was brilliant. He was so good. I actually preferred him to Hugh Jackman. Ooh.
Controversial. Hey there, it's Connor Muller and welcome to Let's Chat Showbiz. This podcast is all about Australian showbiz. We're talking the glitz, the glam, the tough times and everything in between. Let's get this show on the road. Today we are joined by a wonderful friend of mine. She's not just a dancer, but also a talented presenter and entertainer. With an outstanding career in showbiz, you might remember her as Winkie Dink from the Super Cartoon Show, or as a co-star with Fat Cat on Channel 10. We are delighted to be joined by the one and only Didi James. So welcome, Didi.
Thank you very much, Connor. It's great to be here.
It's lovely to have you here. It's lovely to have you here. Now, you've done a lot in your career. Mm-hmm. Now, when did you first start performing? Probably
at the age of 4, Sunday school concert, singing Jingle Bells with holding sticks with jingle bells on the top, and we're singing Jingle Bells, and I turned around and accidentally whacked my sister who was performing alongside me. So she turned back and whacked me back. Then I whacked her, and then a brawl broke out, and then the audience were divided into 2 groups. I had blonde hair when I was young, and half were saying, come on, darkie, because Pam had dark hair, and the other lot were saying, come on, blondie.
Oh, God. And that was when you were 4, what did you say?
4.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow. Now, when did you know that you wanted to become a dancer?
Every Saturday night, the family went to the pictures down at the Glenelg Ozone Theatre, and it was the era of Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, musical comedies. I would sit on the edge of my seat, my heart beating like a drum, and thinking, oh, it's wonderful, I'd love to do that. But when I was about 7, I saw the girls dancing at Elder Park with their little tight curls and their bright red lipstick, and I said to Mum, oh, Mum, I'd love to be a dancer. She said, no daughter of mine is going to be a dancer. It's cheap.
Wow.
And I thought, Victorian upbringing, back in those days, they were very, very biased about dancing. Yep. So, but I knew my whole life, from the time I could remember, that I just loved the dancing, the singing, the dancing, the acting. That was a wonderful era.
Yeah, wow. And were your parents supportive of your career in dancing? Obviously, you said before that your mum wasn't, but in the end, did they support you?
Not really. And Mum was always worried, what would the neighbours think? Because one time in the Channel 9 ballet, when I first started, I was 22, and Gordon Folds, our choreographer, choreographed this number with us 4 girls acting like French prostitutes against light posts. And the French sailors came into town. Well, when I got home, my mother said to me, I never thought I'd be ashamed of my own daughter. And I said, well, Mum, I can't tell Gordon Folds what work he's going to do. You do not tell the choreographer what to do or how to do it. Yeah. And the next day, the neighbour said to Mum, oh, wasn't Didi fabulous last night? And Mum suddenly thought, she was? Maybe I was mistaken. So then she was fine about it.
Yeah.
So she was proud of me in one way, but scared I'd do something a bit bawdy that would upset the neighbours. And it's so much bias back in those days against dancers, but I never had any bias with being a dancer.
Yeah.
Some of the other girls did, but I never had that problem.
Yeah, right. And you've met quite a few well-known people. You've worked with some of the very well-known people, one of them being Peter Allen. Tell me about Peter Allen.
Oh, he was the loveliest guy. I was sitting in the audience at Channel 9 watching the rehearsal of the Allen brothers, they were called, Chris and Peter Allen, and they came and sat next to me on either side of me after they finished rehearsing, and they said to each other, she looks like Patsy Ann Biscoe. Well, I thought, Patsy Ann Biscoe, she was in Sydney and she was singing and dancing, and she later became a Hollywood actress.
Right.
And she was gorgeous, so I was very flattered. So I don't know if they meant it or they were just being nice to me.
Yeah.
But lovely, lovely boys, Peter Allen especially.
And then you met him at the airport at one point too? Is that
yes,
right?
Channel 9 sent me to the airport to meet Peter Allen, and they dressed me up as Carmen Miranda. So I met him with my little fan. I go to Rio, and he was performing at the Festival Theatre.
Right.
And he was really charming, and he said, would you like to come and see the show? And I said, I'd love to. So my husband and I, we turned up at the ticket office, and there were no tickets for us. So she rang through to Peter Allen backstage, and he said, put them on the side of stage, because there was nothing left, booked out. So we stood on the side of the stage watching him when I go to Rio, Rio de Janeiro, and the legs going up in the air, and he was having a ball, and we were too. And then when he came off stage, he gave me a hug and a kiss, and I told him how much I loved the show. And and then,
what a story, hey?
He was lovely, lovely guy.
And you've also met John Farnham. You worked with him too.
Another lovely guy. Everyone loved John Farnham. I was working for Channel 10, choreographing and dancing in the Miss Personality Quest at the Lion Hotel, North Adelaide.
Yeah.
And Johnny was singing, I still think of him as Johnny, because he was Johnny back then. He was singing Copacabana.
Oh, yeah.
And we did a number with him, and he was just lovely to work with.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Now, you've also met Lucky Star.
He was in Woody's Teen Time.
Wow. Yeah.
And Johnny O'Keefe, he was also in Woody's Teen Time. A lot of famous people came from interstate. And in Adelaide tonight, we got some very famous people come over. Winifred Atwell, she was the black pianist, and she was gorgeous. We loved Winifred. She was so lovely to work with. And Eartha Kitt.
Yeah, wow.
Eartha Kitt was a little sex kitten. She'd be on the lounge doing all this pussycat stuff. And when she came off, she was absolutely exhausted.
Wow.
It was all these controlled movements that she was doing with her cat stuff and everything. She was fantastic, but she gave it all she had. No wonder she was famous.
Yes, yeah. Were you most known for your dancing? Was that what you were mostly known for?
Yes, yeah. and choreography.
Yep.
I worked for Emmanuel College for 6 years as their resident choreographer, and we did the rock and roll as Stedford, and we won 1 year.
Wow.
With Flash in Japan. John Oster and I, we put on that performance, and we had the most wonderful kids at Emmanuel College. They were a delight to work with. I think there were about 68 on stage at the one time, but they were marvellous.
Yeah. What was the biggest crowd you ever performed in front of?
Probably 3,000 at the Festival Theatre.
Wow, right. And what was that doing?
I think it was an old, not Adelaide Tonight, it might have been 50 years of television or something like that.
Yeah, wow.
Something to do with it. And a funny story there, I was leading, Tom Fairley was behind me, and Debbie, another girl, was behind Tom. And we said to the sound guy, just play. We've got it timed correctly. So, of course, they never could just play. They had to play it first to see if it was coming on. So when he actually gave us the cue, it was like about 2 bars into the opening, and the routine was we could not have picked that up.
Yeah, wow.
So Ian Fairweather was on the other side of the Festival Theatre, and I'm going, cutthroat, take it back to the beginning. And we would have made a terrible mess of it if we'd come out, because you cannot start a dance routine 2 bars after the music has started.
Wow.
So they rewound, and we went on, and it was very successful.
Now, you mentioned Tom Fairley then.
Yep.
He helped you start off in dancing, is that right?
I can never thank Tom Fairley enough for what he did for me, because if it hadn't been for him, I never ever would have been in show business. I was doing calisthenics at the time, and I was 22, and my calisthenics teacher sent me to Tom to learn some steps to take back to do at the calisthenic college. Miss Murray, Eileen Murray, was my teacher at that time, and I went and learnt some steps, and Tom said to me, "You're a very good dancer. Would you be interested in being in the Channel 9 Ballet?" Well, to be in the Channel 9 Ballet was every girl's ambition.
Yeah.
And I said, I would love to. So I had an interview with Gordon Folds. He didn't see me dance one step. He just said to me afterwards, well, if Tom recommended you, I knew you must be okay. And I was on probation for two 2-3 weeks.
Right.
And at the end of 3 weeks, he hadn't said to me, you can stay on.
Oh, okay.
So I said to Tom, goodbye, Tom. I said, thank you very much for getting me on television. I've really loved my time. He said, where are you going? Where are you going? And I said, well, Gordon hasn't said that I can stay on. He said, come back to rehearsal on Sunday. So I sort of walked into rehearsal thinking, looking at Gordon, he didn't say anything. And there I was. I stayed.
Wow. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, wow. And you did quite a few television programs in your career.
Yes.
People might remember you as Winkie Dink on the cartoon show. Is that right?
Yes, I was. Yeah, for 3 years.
3 years, okay.
3 years nearly. Yep.
And how'd you get that role? How did that become?
Well, Wendy Patching, who was the number 2 Winkie Dink, she went overseas.
Right.
And they were auditioning for a new Winkie Dink, and I was filling in doing Humphrey Bear.
Right.
On the kids program. And Rick Boland went past me when I'm sitting out with the Humphrey head in my lap, and he said, oh, g'day, Didi. He said, what's your Winkie Dink voice like? And I said, it's very bad. I don't want to be Winkie Dink, all right? And he said, hey, that's not bad. I said, no. I don't want to be a duck. And off he went laughing. Next night he came past, next afternoon. I was sitting there. He said, Didi, we still can't get anybody close to the voice. You're the closest we've got. And he said, why don't you want to be Winkie Dink? I said, because I don't want to be a duck. Because I'm used to dancing, choreographing, dancing, musical comedies.
Yeah.
And then the next night he went past, he said, Didi, we cannot find a Winkie Dink. Would you see the children of Adelaide disappointed because Winkie Dink has just got to die of the sudden death? And I thought, oh. So I went home, talked it over with my husband and my 2 children. They said, yes, you've got to do Winkie Dink. So I did.
Yeah, wow.
And it lasted nearly 3 years.
Yeah, wow. Did you enjoy it in the end?
I loved working with Robin Rowenfeld and Joey Moore. First of all, there was Dean Davis and Helen Woods.
Right.
And then they left shortly afterwards. And then I was with Joey Moore and Robin Rowenfeld. And they were lovely to work with. Really good.
Yeah, wow.
Can I tell you a funny story of what happened when I was doing Winkie Dink?
Absolutely.
They had a baby elephant they brought in for the kids program. Unfortunately, it hadn't been to the toilet before it went into Studio 2. And suddenly it went to the toilet. Well, it was like a gusher of water and over in the corner, and suddenly the water started coming over towards me, and I'm sitting on the floor with my little monitor between my legs, my hand up Winkie Dink, and I'm going, help, there's a tidal wave approaching. And the boys had to rush around, pick me up in their arms like this, pick up all the wires, otherwise I would have been electrocuted. So there I am, up in the air, still doing Winkie Dink like this, till they managed to get the sandbags across and block off the U-Rhine.
Oh, God, what a story.
I know. A few funny stories like that.
Now, on the cartoon show, you also did a cooking segment, is that right?
Yes, I had that for a little while, but that didn't last very long, but I really enjoyed doing that.
So were you cooking or what?
I did non-baking things like biscuits that you could, crush with the rolling pin and then mix together with this and that. And the kids like it. They started writing to me with self-addressed envelopes to get the recipes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, you mentioned then about them writing to you. Did you get much fan mail? Did you get...
When I was doing Adelaide Tonight, it started to come in asking me for photographs when I was in the ballet, the Channel 9 ballet.
Yep.
They were thinking about turning me into a mini star because Wally Lund, the orchestra leader, had a talent school for up-and-coming young people to put on Adelaide Tonight doing acts. But I had been married for about 18 months and I fell pregnant at the time they wanted me to do it. But I didn't want to tell them. That's why I didn't want to do the school, because I wanted to keep on dancing for a few months.
Yep.
So I missed out on that. Otherwise, I would have done it. But after I had my firstborn, which was Guy, Gordon Folds rang me up and said, when are you coming back? And I was doing Woody's time prior to that, Woody's teen time. And I said, the doctor said I can come back in 6 weeks' time. And at 6 weeks, off I went to rehearsal. I took my baby with me.
Wow.
He was as good as gold.
Yeah, wow.
So I started the new trend of mothers taking their babies with them to work.
On set, yeah, wow.
And Jill Freeman, another singer, she became pregnant not long after me, and she said she was going to follow in my footsteps and bring her baby to rehearsal.
Wow. Yeah, wow. Now, you spoke about Early Birds before. You did Early Birds on Channel 10.
Yes.
And you were alongside Fat Cat. I mean,
Yes.
every child in South Australia at the time knew who Fat Cat was, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yes. What was that like?
A bit of shock to the system because I had to be out of bed at 5:30 in the morning, and I'm not an early morning person. And the studio was empty. There was only the floor director there and floor manager and the director up in the booth, and the rest of the place was cold, nobody in it, no atmosphere. So I thought nobody was watching it at 7 o'clock in the morning, 7 till 9, a 2-hour program. And so I would do mad things, like I came in on a skateboard at one stage, and then they mimed, went off and I went, as I went past the camera, and then they did a crash at the end, and I'd come back with my hair all over my face. And then in the end, it raised the level of viewers because they didn't know what I was going to do next, so I was told.
And so how long were you on that program for with Fat Cat?
About 6 months, because
6 months.
they wanted me to fill in when Veronica Overton went back to Perth suddenly. And they rang me the night before I was due to go on the Sunday night, and they said, Didi, what are you doing tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock? I said, well, I'll still be asleep. They said, no, you won't. You'll be doing the Early Birds. I said, what's the Early Birds? And it was a 2-hour kids show with Black Beauty showing with the cartoons and things like that. So they just talked me through each segment. And because I thought nobody was watching, I was just very natural. But they didn't keep married women on in those days.
Oh, wow.
And because I was married with 2 children, they didn't keep me on.
Yeah, right.
And they did auditions and found a girl called Penny Hester from New Zealand. But I was training her up in my place, and she was appearing on the segments with me. She was lovely. And they found out she was going to be living with her boyfriend who had 2 children. And they said, well, we would have kept Didi on. And it's the same position. She's got a man and 2 children. I think they thought us married ladies couldn't do everything. They were wrong.
Yeah,
we could. And so then they got Jane Riley, and that's how Jane Riley started and was there for many years for working with Channel 10.
Yeah, wow. Now, talking of Channel 10, you also used to hold up numbers during boxing matches on Channel 10, is that right?
Oh, this is one of the most embarrassing jobs I've ever done. Channel 10 asked me whether I would go to a boxing or a wrestling, I don't know if it was boxing or wrestling. It was held at Theberton Theatre, I think it was. And I had to climb into the ring, lift up my leg and climb through the ropes and stand up and walk around showing 1, then it was 2. So I had to go through the rounds that they were doing. I guess it was boxing. It would be boxing rounds, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Anyhow, every time I lifted my leg to go through the ring, thank goodness I had little hot pants on, the men would go, woo! And I thought, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. Anyhow, I got through it because I saw the funny side of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And my husband thought it was hysterical. Because they couldn't see anything, but, they just, woo! Not one of my better jobs.
And you also did on Channel 10, You Don't Say, is that right?
Yes, that was like a quiz game. Murray George directed it. That was Channel 10, of course, and that lasted for about 3 months, but we became so glib at doing the sentences that people would send in that they thought we knew beforehand because we got so used to working with each other. So it only lasted 3 months, but it was a nice experience.
Yeah, yeah. You did a lot of advertising, adverts, modelling, all sorts of things like that. Tell me about that.
Well, I did a lot of fashion parades.
Right.
And Myer, we did cabaret at Myer. Phil Skinner got us the work there, and we did dancing fashion parades as well. Bathers, lingerie, in a discreet little corner of Myers. And my daughter Samantha was a baby at that time, and she was backstage with the assistants holding her and patting her back while Mum was on stage prancing around.
Wow.
Fabulous fun.
Wow. And you also, in 1974, you led the Adelaide John Martin's Christmas pageant, is that correct?
I did, yeah. There were three of us, yes. And we all were doing classes at Gwen Mackey's, who was a great teacher back in those days. And the three of us led it through Adelaide. But my boots, I've got little tiny feet. I look like I've been bound at birth. And they didn't have the boots small enough, and they were 2 sizes too big for me. So I had socks and socks and socks, layers and layers of socks. But by the time I got to John Martin's to be met by, I forget the name of the person who met us there. It was a chap for years. He greeted Father Christmas as he came in. But I had blisters on the feet, but I didn't know until the next day, because it was so exciting leading the parade with all the kids screaming and shouting.
Yeah, wow.
They were wonderful.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
wow. Now, you had a lifelong friendship with Australian actor and Logie winner Brian Wenzel.
Yes.
Tell me about that. How did that become?
Well, I was working at the Old King's Music Hall, Barry Eggington's domain, and Gordon Folds got me the job there, and we were dancing. And Brian was an actor in one of the shows there, and we instantly hit it off. He and his wife Linda and my family would get together. We'd play tennis after dinner each night in the summertime, and we'd have card games and everything like that. He was a really funny man.
Yeah.
When we played tennis, he'd run like this at the net to get the ball, and I'd laugh thinking he was making a round, because he was a great comedian, and I'd laugh my head off. Then I found out he was bow-legged, but the more I laughed, the more bow-legged he became. One day he was up there at my place, and my mother was visiting, and the next thing we see Brian come out from the kitchen with his hands around his neck, going, help, help. And it looks like somebody was strangling him in my kitchen. He was doing it himself. And then he disappeared, and the next minute he comes out with a knife, one of my kitchen knives stuck in the hole in one of his belts, staking out, making out he's trying to drag his knife out of his belt. My mother was hysterical.
Oh, God. So he was quite a funny guy.
Very funny guy.
And you remained friends with him until recently when he passed away, is that right?
Yes. Yeah. I visited him in the nursing home where he ended up.
Yeah.
He was, I think, 93, 94 when he passed away.
Wow.
But his wife and I are still seeing each other and still maintaining the friendship.
Oh, lovely.
She's a lovely, lovely girl. Backed Brian tremendously throughout his career.
Yeah. And because obviously they moved to Sydney.
They did.
During his time on a country practice and that.
Yes.
And he actually got you an extra shot on a country practice, is that right?
Yes, we were staying with them, and Wenz came, we call him Wenz, he came home one night and he said, how would you like to be an extra in tomorrow's shoot? And I said, yes, I'd love to. So I was in one section. I've never seen it, and I can't even remember what episode it was in, but I was in one of them.
Yeah, wow.
That was good fun too.
And he even got you in contact with Crawford's at one point, is that right?
Yes, he actually took photos of me up at my place and picked out what he thought Crawford's would be interested in. And I flew over there and had an audition, and I got the letter of acceptance. But at that time, they were starting to feel finances were catching up on them. So instead of flying people from Adelaide, they stopped and just used their local people.
Base,
So my timing was bad. If I'd done it earlier, I might have ended up doing something for Crawford's.
Yeah, right. Did you find that in your career it paid well back in those days, or not really? Or
not really, but TV commercials were wonderful. I did one for Pizza Haven, and the fee was $3,000. But I got about $2,600 because the agent took 20%, and it was for Pizza Haven. It was 100%, so visual as well as vocal. Yeah.
Now, talking about television commercials, do you remember doing a commercial with Malcolm Haslett for Cunningham Warehouse?
Yes, I do.
I've got a video here to show you.
Cunningham's Warehouse, yes sirree.
Oi, me old shiners, from next Monday, October 1st.
You can bag your bargains from Cunningham's new warehouse.
In Bank Court Elizabeth Shopping Centre.
Bargains for the pigeon tops.
Oh, bargains for the trouble and strife.
Bargains for the tin lids.
So join us next Monday, October 1st.
And join the bargains free in Bank Court Elizabeth Shopping Centre.
Oi!
Cunningham's Warehouse, yes sirree.
Now, where did you get that from, you naughty boy Connor?
I found that on Malcolm's Facebook page, actually. I was doing a bit of a stalk and it came up, and yeah, I thought, there you go. So
Well, fancy that.
a nice little memory there for you.
We did that at Elizabeth.
Yeah,
I remember
right.
doing that.
Yeah, right. Now, were you ever recognised in the street? Did people ever stop you and say, "Oh, Didi James," or were you
Quite often.
quite often?
But sometimes not very complimentary little statements were said. I was going through Adelaide Arcade when I was in the Channel 9 Ballet, and there was a girl serving at a button booth in the middle of the arcade, and she turned around and yelled out to the other girl at the next booth. She said, "Hey, that's Didi James. She's not much, is she?"
Oh gosh, it's not very nice.
Then there was a rumour going on around about me saying that I'd left my husband and my two little boys. Well, I didn't have any children at that stage, and I certainly hadn't left my husband.
So really, things haven't changed that much with media, have they? In gossip and media.
So anything you hear, well, you know,
Show business.
Yeah, show business.
Now, you mentioned before that you often receive lots of fan mail and that. Did you ever have any crazy or stalkers or anyone that scared
On
you?
the way home from Channel 9, I was followed by a chap that looked the living image of Ernest Borgnine.
Wow.
And he was in his car. I was on my Vespa motor scooter, like Audrey Hepburn. I thought I was Audrey Hepburn. And I remember it was on the corner of West Terrace and Anzac Highway, where South Terrace comes in. I was aware he was at the lights, but I didn't look at him. But as we went down the Anzac Highway, whatever speed I did, he kept pace with me, and I thought, I'm in trouble here. A car versus a motor scooter, I'll never get away from him. And so no matter where I went, he followed me. And I lived where I live now, on top of the hill at Seaview Downs. And I thought, I've got to lose this guy. So I made out to go over an intersection, and he went over with me, and I quickly turned and went along Seacombe Road, and then he had to go up to the next entrance, and I got there. Then I turned off my lights, and I finally got rid of him.
Wow.
But another chap followed me home he had a motor scooter, but wasn't a Vespa, and he came tearing up the hill, and my husband could hear us with our bikes going hell for leather, and he came out and grabbed that chap's motor handles, and he said, "What do you mean by following women home?"
Wow.
He said, "On your way."
Wow.
And so, you know, it's frightening.
Yeah, quite scary
Yeah.
for you, I can imagine.
You know, sometimes I think they do it just for a joke,
Yeah.
just to frighten you, but they don't realise how frightening it can be.
The impact. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Wow. Do you prefer stage or screen?
I can't answer that because they're so different. I love them both because it's the people you work with that's important.
Yeah.
And so people are everything. So the television people are fabulous, the stage people are fabulous. But when you're on stage, it's a warmer atmosphere because you've got them right at your fingertips there.
Mm.
You know whether you're doing a good job
And you have
or
an
not.
audience, is that?
Yes, yeah. So sometimes if the audience is a little bit sleepy, you've got to work harder to get them going, especially at 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
When we were at the Old Kings, Phil Skinner, who directed quite a few of our shows, she would put on a really fast number at 10:30 to wake them up out of their sleep.
Yes.
Because at 10:30 everybody starts to nod off.
Yeah.
And of course the show wouldn't end until about 10 to 11, so they still had about 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, yeah.
So she'd put in a really fast number. And then that would wake them up and away they'd go.
Yeah, yeah.
I started acting at the Old Kings. That's the first time I acted.
Yeah, right.
I was Chop Suey, a Chinese cook boy, and I had a line that said, Confucius say, man who make love on side of hill, not on level. Anyhow, I got a globule of saliva that went down the windpipe, and I said, chop suey. Confucius say, man who make love on side of hill, not. And then, and I started again. Same thing happened. And then the third time I repeated, somebody in the audience yelled out, not on level. And I said, yes. And they brought the house down. Because the audience love to see you in trouble on stage when they know what's happening.
What other roles did you play on stage? What have you played?
I played Peter Pan, Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Wow. This was all for the Bunyip Children's Theatre. Lucy in You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. And at Theatre 62 with John Edmund, I played the Secretary Bird in The Secretary Bird. Also played Dulcie in Dulcie Doesn't Give a Damn, which toured the factories because Don Dunstan wanted to bring a bit of culture me into the factories.
Yeah.
So we did that as an exercise to bring culture to Adelaide.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, wow.
So Princess Jade Pure I played in one of the pantos, but we also did Aboriginal plays, which was very interesting.
Wow, okay.
Because that was with the Bunyip Children's Theatre. We had an Aboriginal elder come and teach us all about the ways of the Aborigines.
Wow.
And of course, when that finished, we were sorry to see him go.
Yes.
He was an elder.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And what was your favourite role?
Peter Pan.
Peter Pan.
I loved Peter Pan.
I had a feeling you were going to say that. Yeah.
that was a wonderful role. I really loved that.
You've done a bit of extra work over the last few years, and that's where we actually met. We met on the set of Ladies in Black.
I will never forget that, Connor, because I was signing on.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise, but you were standing behind me ready to sign on next. And I said something funny to Kim, he was lovely, wasn't he?
Yes,
Kim,
very
who
lovely.
signed us on. And you said, you're funny, I'm going to stick with you.
Yes.
And then we walked away, and the next minute, one of the caravan doors open, and out comes Todd McKenny.
Yes.
And I was thrilled to bits. I said, Todd McKenny, you gorgeous thing. And he stopped and he looked, and I said, I saw you in Boy from Oz.
Yes.
He was brilliant. He was so good. I actually preferred him to Hugh Jackman. Ooh,
Controversial.
But Todd was so enjoying himself on stage that the audience couldn't help but love him. He was so natural, so talented, fresh, vital, exciting. He was marvellous. I loved him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, we had good fun on that set, ladies. I think we spent 2 days together with a bunch of other extras, and it was
and we got on so well that we were laughing off stage, off camera. And one of the floor managers came in. She said, "You two, you seem to be getting on pretty well. Come with me." So you were playing the part of...
I was playing a stock boy, in the
stock
department
boy
shop.
with your white jacket on.
Correct, yes.
And I looked like a dag in this awful 50s
I'll put a photo up for it.
Oh, it was horrible. In the 50s outfit.
But at least everyone, they all looked like that. You weren't the only one.
Yeah, they all looked daggy. And anyhow, I had to come in and ask you the way to a department, so I thought I'm going to send him up, because you were only 18 at that time. You're 20 now.
Yes.
But I went up to him and I mouthed, "Could you tell me the way to the underwear department, please?" And instead of you cracking up, you said, "Certainly, ma'am. Over here." And I said, "Thank you very much." But I was very impressed with you, because you didn't know I was going to say that. You didn't crack a smile. You didn't break. You were fabulous. So well done, you.
Too kind, Didi. No, it was great fun. We had a lot of fun on there. It was probably the best set.
So we've continued our friendship, haven't we?
We have. Yes, definitely. Now, what other extra roles have you done? You've done quite a few things here and there over time, haven't you?
I was an extra in Shine, and that was on just a few nights ago. And I was the girl who took the flash of Geoffrey Rush playing in his blue velvet smoking jacket at the nightclub. And then there was a close-up with me and two other girls, and on my big television screen, it frightened the daylights out of me. If it was a small telly, it would have been okay, but on the big one, I thought, wow. And Sarah Dane, I was in that, and Tracks of Glory, Scorpio, Sally Marshall is Not an Alien, a few others. There was one I was on a plane reading a book, and I got so much into reading my book, I forgot they were filming. And then they said, okay, you can all go home now. And I looked up and I thought, oh, they finished. I don't know what movie that one was.
Oh, that's funny. Now, what do you do with yourself now? Like, obviously, you have lots of spare time. What do you enjoy doing?
I love swimming. Each morning I swim. As soon as I get out of bed, I've got a swimming pool.
Wow.
I love playing Scrabble. I love reading. I'm an avid reader, but I'm also a very keen gardener. And I socialise with all the old Channel 9 ballet girls every Monday, and Tom Fairley, who took over the choreography from Gordon Folds and who got me started into showbiz. So that's what I do regularly on a Monday. We all meet up together, but we celebrate all the dancers' birthdays, so we have lots of fun.
Wow, wow. And I've been to your room downstairs at your home, and it's like a museum. You have photos, and you have magazines, and you have everything. You keep all your souvenirs, don't you, and photos? And
yes,
yeah.
It was the old garage that we converted into a games room with a pool table.
Oh, right. Yep. Makes sense.
So I thought, well, I've got all these photos of all my friends that I've worked with over the years. Why not put them up rather than have them hidden in a cupboard? Yeah. So I put them up, and it's a lovely feeling down there, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It's all carpeted, so it's sort of like a proper room converted. Yeah.
Yes. A question to ask you is, who would you like to see on Let's Chat Showbiz?
Well, I'd like to see Todd McKinney for a starter, but another one that comes to mind is Anne Will. She's a marvellous personality.
It's funny you say Anne Wills, because our last guest, Bonnie, she also said Anne Wills as well. So
well, there you go.
We'll have to
follow
that up.
Is one of the most generous-hearted girls that I think I've worked with.
Yeah, wow.
She is very, very natural, normal, generous. And my son Guy actually was a director on her show on Channel 9. A morning program, I think it was, and they worked together and they loved each other.
Wow, wow.
No, Anne's a lovely, lovely girl.
One more question I have to ask you. Do you miss performing, and would you go back to it tomorrow if someone asked you?
Only if it was like a little cameo role.
Right.
I would love to do a cameo role in a series of the old lady in the background, either falling over in the street or being mugged, and she get up and knock his eyes out, knock him out. I'd like to be in sort of like each little segment, and they think, what's she going to do next? Because I don't want a part where I'm learning lines or doing anything like that, but a little cameo role. Remember Madge in Dame Edna Edridge?
Yeah.
I'd love to do stuff like
Something
that.
Fun and naughty. And
I love comedy.
Yeah.
And I'm quite adventurous, so I'd be on a trampoline or on a horse or, backwards, but just something like that would be great fun, I think. Yeah,
lovely. Awesome.
And I'd like to be on a movie with you again.
A movie with me again?
Yes.
We can create our own little TV series. And they said that on set. They said, you need to have your own little spin-off because we got on so well.
Well, we're still working together, aren't we?
Exactly. Now, at the end of each episode, I ask the guest a question to ask the next guest. Now, our last guest, Bonnie, she asked this question, and I'm going to have to ask you it now. So thanks, Bonnie, if you're watching. She says, where is the most unusual place that you ever had sex?
What's that? Have you got any more good questions like that?
Oh, you're funny.
I was brought up in the Victorian manner. We don't talk about things like that.
Well, lucky your mum's not watching, hey?
No, but my children will be.
We'll finish that question off camera then, won't we? So I'm going to ask you now. We don't know who the next guest is. It could be anyone, but a question to ask the next guest.
Are you happy with what you've done in your life? And if not, why not? And how would you rectify it? Because it's up to you to put your life in order and do what you want to do before it's too late.
Wow, that's a lovely question. Very in-depth. I like it. I like it. Well, Didi, it's been a pleasure having you on here. I've absolutely loved every minute of it, and I'm very lucky to call you a friend. So thank you, Didi.
I'm lucky to call you a friend too. And also, thank you for the beautiful bunch of flowers that you gave me prior to the show.
You're welcome.
That
You're
was
welcome.
lovely. One thing I did want to say was, you know the movie Ladies in Black that we were on?
Yeah.
Have you ever met a more wonderful crew? The director knew us by our first names. I've never been on a movie where they knew your name.
Yeah.
The food that they supplied was absolutely lavish. We were treated equal as if we were all stars.
Definitely.
And all I can say is it's probably the best crew that I have ever worked with in my whole life. So, you know, thank you to them.
Definitely.
They deserve success.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely, yes. So when was the last time you signed an autograph, Didi?
Many years ago.
Well, now's the chance.
Oh, do you like being called a toy boy?
You call me all the time, so I don't have a choice.
To darling Connor, Connor, my toy boy. And pin-up boy. Love, Didi. Do you know who you remind me of?
Who?
Lucille Ball's husband when he was young.
Right. I'll have to look that up. I'll have to look them up.
He was very handsome, very charming.
Oh, too kind. Thank you, Didi.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Connor.
you, Didi. It's been lovely. Thanks for tuning in. If you want more episodes of Let's Chat Showbiz, you can follow along on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Instagram, TikTok, and even Facebook for all you oldies. See you next time on Let's Chat Showbiz.
I win.
We should finish the episode like that. You two win.